The last text you sent hung in the air, unread, for days that stretched into a week, then a month. You checked your phone obsessively, each notification a flicker of hope, only to be met with silence. A shared laugh, a hopeful conversation, a future imagined, all evaporated without a word, leaving behind a hollow ache and a question that gnaws at the soul. What happened? This isn't a scene from a fictional drama. It's the all-too-common experience of being ghosted. It's a modern phenomenon, yet the pain it inflicts is as old as human connection itself. It leaves us grappling with a profound sense of dismissal, a feeling of being erased without explanation. And it raises a critical question for us today. When relationships become difficult, when paths diverge, is silence ever compassionate? Is suddenly cutting contact an act of self-protection or a cowardly avoidance of necessary, albeit uncomfortable, communication? Let's unpack this together, looking through the lens of timeless wisdom, specifically what biblical teachings might offer on conflict resolution, honest communication, and treating others with dignity and respect. Ghosting, at its core, is the abrupt termination of all communication and contact with another person without any explanation. It's a disappearance, leaving the other person confused, hurt, and often struggling to find closure. The motivations behind it can be varied: a desire to avoid confrontation, a perceived lack of commitment, a fear of causing pain, or even a misguided attempt to protect oneself from emotional entanglement. While some might argue it's a way to avoid drama or a necessary boundary, the impact on the person being ghosted is often significant. Feelings of rejection, self-doubt, anxiety, and a deep sense of disrespect. But can silence ever truly be compassionate, especially when it leaves a void of unanswered questions? The Bible places a high value on clear, honest, and gracious communication. It consistently calls us to interact with one another in ways that build up rather than tear down. Consider Ephesians 4:29, which says, "Let no corrupting talk come out of your mouths, but only such as is good for building up, as fits the occasion, that it may give grace to those who hear." This verse isn't just about avoiding harsh words, it's about actively choosing words that are constructive, appropriate, and beneficial for the listener. While silence isn't corrupting talk, a lack of appropriate communication can certainly be destructive, especially when an explanation is warranted. A sudden, unexplained withdrawal rarely gives grace. Instead, it often inflicts pain and confusion. Furthermore, biblical wisdom encourages direct and respectful conflict resolution. Matthew 18:15-17 outlines a process for addressing conflict within the community. "If your brother sins against you, go and tell him his fault, between you and him alone." While this passage specifically addresses grievances, the underlying principle is clear. Issues should be faced directly, with the aim of reconciliation and understanding, not simply avoided. This approach, centered on active engagement, stands in stark contrast to the passive aggression inherent in ghosting. What about treating others with dignity and respect? Colossians 3:12-14 instructs us to "Put on then, as God's chosen ones, holy and beloved, compassionate hearts, kindness, humility, meekness, and patience, bearing with one another, and if one has a complaint against another, forgiving each other. As the Lord has forgiven you, so you also must forgive. And, above all these, put on love, which binds everything together in perfect harmony." This is a call to interact with profound empathy and regard for the other person's humanity. Ghosting, regardless of intent, often communicates a lack of regard, an unwillingness to extend the basic courtesy of an explanation. It strips the other person of their agency, denying them the dignity of understanding. Now, it's important to acknowledge nuance. There are, of course, very rare and specific circumstances where immediately cutting contact might be a necessary act of self-preservation. If a relationship has become abusive, physically or emotionally, or if boundaries have been repeatedly violated despite clear communication, then for one's safety and well-being, a swift and complete cessation of contact might be the only responsible choice. In these extreme cases, it's not truly ghosting in the sense of avoiding an uncomfortable conversation. It's an act of escaping harm. But for the vast majority of relationship endings where no immediate threat exists, a different path is called for. The biblical emphasis is on courageous engaging, even when it's difficult. Proverbs 15:1 reminds us, "A soft answer turns away wrath, but a harsh word stirs up anger." This isn't advocating for silence, but for thoughtful, gentle communication. Ending a relationship, even a short one, with honesty and kindness rather than abrupt silence is an act of love and respect. It might be uncomfortable, it might involve difficult emotions, but it allows both individuals the opportunity for closure and growth. It honors the connection that once was, however brief. So, is silence ever truly compassionate in the context of ending a relationship? In nearly all cases where safety is not an immediate concern, the answer, from a biblical perspective, would be no. Compassion often requires courage, the courage to speak truth in love, to offer an explanation, however brief, that respects the other person's humanity and their right to understanding. It means choosing clarity over convenience and empathy over avoidance. Let us strive to be people who communicate with grace, even when it's hard. Let us be people who value others enough to offer them dignity and respect, even when our paths diverge. It is in these moments of courageous vulnerability that true compassion shines brightest. What are your thoughts on this delicate balance between self-protection and honest communication? Have you experienced ghosting, either as the giver or receiver, and what did you learn from it? Share your insights and reflections in the comments below. If this conversation resonated with you, please consider subscribing for more thoughtful discussions like this. Thank you for joining me today.